Welcome to Ace Makerspace COVID-19 safety training. This is all part of certification, which is required of all members. And new members additionally need to take the How Ace Makerspace Works class, which is a live free virtual class. And it's a measure that we're taking to supplement and fast track people to being successful at ACE, because we will no longer be exchanging information in person just by hanging out with each other the way we used to. It used to be an optional kind of thing, and now it's not so much. But without further ado, I'm going to share my screen, and I have a little presentation for you. All the training and all the policies and all the things that we've put together to date, we're done with the best information available as it becomes available. So this is by no means written in stone, though it is fairly firm, until we have better science. And when we have better science, we will change our policies, procedures, guidelines, and all that good stuff. Better science or better tools, one or the other. So keep in mind that we're all on this journey together. The way that this training goes is we're going to talk a little bit about culture and just kind of some general parameters and the technicalities of masks. Then we're going to do a live software training and just kind of show you the tech of what we need to do. And then we're going to wrap up with some feedback from y'all. So like I said, the first part is culture and considerations. In the past, ACE has had extremely generous and liberal guest policies. And fortunately, at this point in our journey with COVID, we have had to suspend guest privileges. And so we're currently only open to members. That means, unfortunately, that you can't bring your kids or your spouse or your buddy unless they too are a member. Once we have the tools available to allow for guests, that's when we'll cross that bridge. Now, that said, there are some non-members that are allowed in the space. We have a robust PPE making program, and PPE volunteers will be in the space. And then once our classes resume, students will be in the space. But keep in mind, both of those groups of people are required to take and pass this course. They need to be certified for COVID safety as well. The people who don't need to take this course that may be in the space are contractors and service people. These will be folks like the professional cleaners, or let's say an electrician if we needed one, maintenance folks from the landlord, things like that. All of those people have a point of contact person in ACE leadership, and that person is responsible for tracking where they go, collecting IDs and releases of liability and things like that. We may also have other visitors that don't actually come into our physical rooms, but may come into the building. And because we've arranged for a no contact pickup and drop off spot in the hallway at the Suite 214 door. Let's talk a little bit about personal responsibility. We all have some. Really, please don't come in if you're sick. You know, it may just be allergies, but if you don't feel good, don't come into the space. If you are unsure, take your temperature. Anything above 100 is a red flag. Find the tools out there to give you excellent current information. We highly recommend this website by Open Source Medical Supplies. And it's a home care guide for COVID-19, including identifying symptoms, testing, how to home quarantine. This has a lot of excellent information, and they do a beautiful job of keeping it up to date and as current as possible with the latest guidelines out there with the best science. This is provided by this nonprofit organization. So use good information. Don't expect all your information to come via ACE. Now, last but not least, while you're in ACE space, you have some personal responsibility, and we're going to deep dive on masks and cleaning. But one of the things that's a little bit more of a subtle consideration is about containing your germs. Things like water bottles, maybe your lunch container, maybe your coffee cup, maybe your personal phone, and all of those things are more likely to be contaminated than just, the tape measure you used. Keep those things with you. Keep them contained. If you sprinkle them throughout the space, they're literally a physical barrier somebody else isn't going to take the risk of touching in order for them to be able to function in the space. So keep your stuff to you. Reporting responsibilities. You have a personal reporting responsibility. If you or anybody in your germ pod is exposed to COVID-19 or becomes infected and you have not been to ACE since the date of exposure, do not come to ACE and self-quarantine for 14 days and ensure that during those 14 days you are symptom-free before you return. Also, let us know. Let us have informed consent as a community on whether or not it's a good idea, and also potentially provide you some support. You can do that by reporting to @officers on Slack or emailing officers@acemakerspace.org. Conversely, if you have been to ACE and you find out after your ACE visit that somebody in your germ pod was exposed or had become infected and you have been exposed, tell us that too. It's the same process. Immediately notify officers and then self-quarantine for 14 days and do not return until you are symptom-free. We understand these things can be out of people's control, but it's all about being transparent and sharing information. Now, we've had a lot of questions about, well, why don't we require that folks have a clean test before we allow folks back? Here's the thing. Unfortunately, healthcare is not equitably accessible in our country right now, and there would be a lot of barriers, and we feel that criteria is, quite frankly, racist. Because not everybody has a car and can go through a drive-through test. Not everybody can get away from their work to get that. And so we're kind of sensitive to that, but we are confident that folks can make a choice to not come back until they have self-quarantined for 14 symptom-free days. So that's the parameter and the reasoning behind that parameter, and kind of hard barrier and boundary. Next, but not by no means least, is like we've talked about what personal things you need to do if there's an exposure, but what does ACE do if there's an exposure? So what we do is any room with an exposure is quarantined for 4 days. We literally lock the door, put the emergency tape up, and we don't go in there, not even to clean, for 4 days. Once those 4 days are up, we go in, we sanitize, we use the room. The next thing that we do is we look at the data, and you'll learn more in this workshop about how we collect data, but officers look at the data and use the occupancy tracking system to directly notify all possible exposed persons. So if somebody was in there and they had an exposure and then you were in there afterward, and then 2 days later we get notified about the exposure, we notify everybody who was in that room, personally, directly with an email. So make sure you're getting your Ace Makerspace emails. The next thing that we do is we make a public announcement that there was an exposure, what space it was in, what time period it was in, and when that space will be open again. And then, of course, at the end of that, we open the room back up. This is in line with the County of Alameda workplace criteria. Next, let's talk a little bit about cameras. How are we keeping track of all of this? Everybody's behavior and all of these things, especially when we can't be in the space together the way that we used to. And often volunteers can't put in the hours to staff continuously like that. What we've done is we've upgraded the network and we've upgraded the camera system, and we've changed how we interact with the camera system. We actually monitor it daily. We match the check-in, check-out records with the camera feed to ensure that we have an accurate record of who's been in our space, and to generally ensure that, masks were worn and things were adhered to properly. We used to have a policy of check the feed if there's a problem or a complaint. Now we're just checking the feed, and we have that ability to do that remotely. And the team that does that is very small, and it's not published on the internet publicly or any of those things. It's done with a very robust, secure, well-known network. We're paying for that, and so that's what's going on. But what's exciting about the camera system is that they are network cameras They do include mics that we can turn on if we need to. And we're looking at options to increase and extend the system so that we really can provide that augmented experience, and hopefully even have the ability to put cameras at not just looking at whole rooms, but maybe at work areas. So one could, on a live feed, hold a project up and go, why isn't this working? And be able to get help or interact with each other. And so we're kind of excited about the possibilities and where we can take this in this new reality. Where we can't just be like, sure, I'll meet you on Saturday. The next thing is supporting each other to take care of the community. A&T has always been about community and mutual support. It doesn't work without contribution and trust. And we really need to be there for each other. In other parts of the world, especially in other parts of the United States, there has been a lot of controversy about mask wear, including people having very uncontrolled emotional reactions to being asked to wear masks. While that's been minimal in the Bay Area, it hasn't been totally gone. Here's the deal at Ace. We're not saying what you need to do in your life, but we're saying this is what's okay here. If you are asked to correct your mask wearing to comply with the standards posted and the standards you learn here today, just comply. It's not a time for argument or debate. If you would like to debate, we can hold a town hall and we can debate. But we will not be doing it in a way that risks each other's health and safety. And that is also a hard boundary. So if somebody says, please, your mask doesn't fit well, can you please tighten it up? Just tighten it up. Just do it, quite frankly, or asks you to, hey, that mask isn't okay here. Can you get a better mask? Just do it. Speaking of which, we have those things available on site. We are makers. We are hackers. We've got it together. And we have a robust PPE program where we've literally distributed thousands of masks in several different formats. That stuff is in the house. And so if you need to just purchase a mask, we have masks you can purchase at the Honor Store in Suite 206. And that's a fitted mask made by a local business here in Oakland. You can also buy those if you need to get it in the hallway. You can buy it from the outgoing no contact pickup box. And we're rolling on the honor system here. We expect you to pick up the mask, then go to the website and pay for it. It's only $9. If you need other kinds of masks and you're just not finding a mask that works for you, that fits in our standard, speak up. Let's help get you what you need and get you the mask that fits your face, because there is no one mask that's perfect for everybody. Just straight up, there isn't. Also, help each other find the things that are right. Much like not walking by a full trash can, don't walk by an empty sanitizer dispenser. There's plenty of sanitizer all over the place, both surface sanitizer and hand sanitizer. When in doubt, know that the refills for those products are in the storage area in Suite 113. Go straight to the back. It's on the left-hand side on the bottom shelf, and there are just miles of it. We invested heavily so we can afford just a lot. And if something is broken, if there's a broken spray bottle, a broken dispenser, speak up early. We have replacements. We can solve this. So if things go wrong, if somebody can't quite get the hang of things, or if they just think that this is a bunch of nonsense and they don't care about our rules and they willfully disregard our C-19 policies and procedures, it will result in an immediate suspension of your privileges. That means you cannot be on site at Ace, you cannot be in our digital platforms, and if we're in another location, you can't be there either. That's commonly referred to as a yellow card. If you get a yellow card warning and your privileges are suspended, you have 30 days to appeal that suspension, and that suspension appeal goes in front of a peer review. So I'm never on a peer review panel as the executive director. They're literally your peers who will listen to you and then decide what the path forward is, whether it's permanent suspension or remedial training. But this isn't trivial, like putting up with people's sawdust. This is serious stuff. And what we consider like a willful disregard of the policies is having questions and not bothering to look them up and transgressing or ask questions and find answers. A pattern of forgetting your mask or forgetting that you can't eat on site anymore. And we'll talk more about that. So that's really what it is. Usually at ACE, we have a pretty liberal policy of supporting you to do what is acceptable at ACE, but we just have the risk is much greater for us to extend that too far when it comes to COVID and people's health and safety. So that's how it is. So let's talk about masks. Masks are the thing. Masks at ACE. Now, there is a countywide mandate in Alameda that you must have a mask on if you are out in public. That means, going to the corner store, got to wear a mask. Going to the grocery store, got to wear a mask. That means any time that you are in space you don't own. Out of your car, got a mask. Like, that's what that is. That's the Alameda County rule. Now, our landlord has posted very clear signage that anytime that you are in the common space of the building that ACE occupies, you must have a mask on. You need to adhere to that guideline. That's non-negotiable. Now, ACE has set the rule for what happens in our spaces, and we have said that anytime you're in an ACE space, you must wear a mask. Period. There is one momentary exception, because human beings turn out to be made 95% of water. And we know that you need it. You need beverages. So momentary exceptions for drinking water are acceptable. And the parameters on that have to do with social distancing. That means you have to be more than 2 meters away from any other people. And you have to sanitize before and after, because generally speaking, when people drink, they touch their face or they touch something that touched their face. And so you need to sanitize properly. It's also considered polite in our culture that's developing here around it, is to inform people that might be within your thing, like, hey, like if they might commonly walk up to you to pass you or something like that in the hallway, having a drink over here, and you just let them know, I'm popping my mask for my drink, have your drink, sanitize, do your thing, because then they have a choice. You don't want to take people's choice away. So let people know that. Now, last but not least, no eating or snacks or of snacks or food in the building. Like, not in the hallway, not if the room is just you. No, just no. We do have snacks available, and we've put them in all these little sequestered jars, individually wrapped, so you can sanitize the wrapper if you even want to. And you're welcome to buy a snack and take it outside and enjoy your snack. If you are eating your lunch and you want to drag a folding chair out there with you, do it. Enjoy it. Have at it. You can't eat in the building. Period. No chips, no cookies, no nothing.
With respect to sanitizing after you drink water or whatever, are we talking about washing your hands or using hand sanitizer, or is there more to the sanitization practice?
Really, because you're only having a momentary drink, it's pretty much that. But let's say for some reason you had a dry throat and you coughed, and you may have coughed over a counter space or a work surface. Maybe give that a little zhuzh. But we expect you to do critical thinking as to what you're doing. What if you accidentally took your drink, did the thing, and then put your hand on the counter? Maybe give that counter a zhuzh. It's time for a little alcohol. Let's talk about unsafe masks. There are masks that don't work, and then there are masks where the jury is still out and we don't know if they're good or they're bad. This is an ever-evolving situation. We're learning stuff every day. Nobody was prepared for this. So considerations are, if a mask allows you to exhale droplets all over somebody, it's not safe. If it has unfiltered valves, or if it's made of material that's not appropriate, such as wide weave fabrics, it's not going to protect other people from your droplets. There's an awesome site where they actually added human-friendly illustrations at the CDC on how to select, wear, and clean a mask. Now, it clearly says here, don't wear masks with exhalation valves, period. That is true. What things are good? 2 or more layers, washable, breathable, woven. Now, here's where it gets a little ambiguous. Right here, it's like, hey, the jury is still out on neck gaiters. The reason jury is still out on neck gaiters is because it's stretched jersey fabric, kind of like a t-shirt. And every time you stretch a t-shirt, the holes get bigger. You can even do a test at home. Take a t-shirt, like maybe even a dark colored one, hold it up to a light, and then stretch it and see how much more light comes through that shirt. And that's what's happening. And there's been a couple of studies done, though it's still not conclusive, that breathing your droplets through that kind of mesh breaks them up and makes them tinier, and then they aerosolize even more. So that's why we've decided that gaiters and stretchy fabric aren't allowed at ACE right now. When there's better science, and if that conclusion turns out to be erroneous, we will change that at that time. But we don't feel it's worth the risk when there are so many other good mask options available. And then, like, it even has information on how to wear things with glasses, and we're going to talk about fit in a little bit, and we're going to talk about all of these good things. But they've got great information on this CDC page, which wasn't the case with a lot of their early COVID pages. Some common things that we would have worn at ACE is a respirator. Like, half the time you need to wear that because you're working with fine dust and not just, COVID things. But the thing with most respirators is they have an unfiltered exhalation valve. So if it has an unmodified valve, you cannot wear it at ACE. The same goes through with what's called a festival style mask. These are worn commonly for dirt biking or at Coachella or Burning Man. And they too have unfiltered valves. There's also the N95s that have valves on them. And usually they have a name that has cool in it, like Cool Tech or, something like that. And if it's the little plastic thing at the front, and that's unfiltered as well. So you can modify these 3 masks to make them acceptable, and we're going to talk about that. But this style mask or jersey fabric is a no-go right now. Let's talk about approved masks. There's a ton of them. You can get a good old N95 if you can get your hands on it and you're not taking it away from medical folks. Go for it. Do it. A great N95. Any 2-layer fabric mask. There are just tons of them out there, and you can make them we'll talk more about the supply chain. But there's just tons of them out there. They're great. Any 3-layer disposable surgical mask. It's made with very specific fabric that stops all the thread. Now, you can also get what's called a KN95. And this is a non-medical grade N95. That's what a KN95 is. You can also use a respirator that has the valve modified. Now, I've got a picture here of my personal respirator, which is a 3M one, and I'm showing the bottom of the valve where I've used tape and breathable fabric to create a filter for my valve. You can create a filter using tape and other good making hackeries for the N95 with the thing. And here I'm showing where you can take the festival mask and you can use that same filter fabric to filter the valve on that. And it's sometimes as simple as a rubber band and a piece of fabric from an old sheet. And it can be real quick. Now let's talk about how to get that mask. Supply chains for commercial masks are getting better, but they're still unreliable. And sometimes they're sketchy. They haven't, there's a lot of things on the market that are stretchy, or maybe only have a filter on your mask and not your nose, which is no good. All kinds of things like that. So really look at that CDC page and think critically. Like, that's what we do at ACE. Like, we can handle this. So do your best. You can make one at home. You can make one at ACE. We're actually thinking about shelving kits where you can pull a pattern off the wall and have all the parts and make a mask, and you can tweak it so it custom fits your face. You can also buy one for cost at AMT, which I talked about a little bit earlier. We have them in the outgoing box shown here in the hallway. at Suite 214 and in the Honor Store at 206. And like I said, they're a cloth. It's a fitted cloth 2-layer mask. It's available for $9, and they're made locally here in Oakland. Got to keep it local. So those are really how to get masks. All righty. Now let's talk about how to use a mask properly. Because at the end of the day, there's kind of two things that are king when it comes to masks. First quality it has to have is your willingness to put it on your face. Right away, that's the first quality it needs to have. The second quality it needs to have is a good fit. And a good fit means that it fits over the bridge of your nose, all of this area right here. So if you go from your cheekbones to the bridge of your nose, it needs to fit well here. It needs to be well fit on the sides without gapping. And it needs to go to under your chin, not over your chin and not to the tip of your nose. So from the bridge to under your chin, across your cheekbones, tied on the sides. That's how it needs to fit. And it's clearly shown in this illustration. Worn as a chin strap? Nah. Nose out, you're not doing anybody's any favors. Big gappy flappy sides that flap around when you move and it falls off and you're touching it all the time? Nope. And you can clearly see, well fit on the bridge, under the chin, tied on the sides. Now, the other thing about using a mask properly is once a mask is contaminated, swap it out. Expect in your daily life in this new COVID reality, if you're ever going to be anywhere near other human beings, that you should probably own anywhere from 3 to 6 masks, reusable masks. That's the expectation of it, because you're going to go through them during a day, especially during heat waves, and you're going to need to be able to wash them. And not everybody has the same access to washer and dryer in their house. So, or you may have time to hand wash them and put them out at night. So think 3 to 6 masks is what you need. Now, a mask is contaminated, and this pertains specifically to fabric masks, not necessarily the plastic respirators, but fabric masks. When they are wet, or when they're touched with other people, or when they're just plain dirty. Humans are funky. That's going to get dirty real fast, and it's going to stop fitting well. It's going to get stretched out. Like, that's what that is. So that's when they're contaminated. A contaminated reusable mask can go into a plastic bag, Ziploc that up, take it home and wash it. A contaminated disposable mask can be thrown in the trash. It is not hazardous waste. That said, you should not be digging through the trash at Ace. Don't paw through the trash. In both cases, get a new mask if you want to stay in the space. Now let's talk a little bit about occupancy tracking and booking the space. Because the next safest thing that we can do for ourselves as a community is stay away from each other, but still share the space, which is a little bit tricky. So we developed some tools. Why occupancy tracking? I know that's what you're asking yourself. Because contact tracing is the responsible thing to do. When leadership had to make that hard choice of whether we were going to stay existing, when this all hit the fan, we had to say, what was it going to take to do it in a way that was morally responsible? And this is really what it is. Also, because we trust the Ace community. Ace works on trust. We've proven that we can trust each other. Let's keep doing that. The other reason we're doing occupancy tracking is we don't have on-site staff. There's nobody doing a head count, and there's no, teacher making us mind the rules at recess. So we've really got to do it for ourselves. Something that occupancy tracking is not, is it is not tool reservation. Just because you book time in the workshop for the day doesn't mean that the table saw, the bandsaw, and the drill press are just for you. That's not how it works. There are no exclusive rooms at Ace. Ace is still a shared space. There are hard limits on how many people can be in a space. There will never be a point in Ace's existence where you can rent a room for exclusive use. That's not the point of the org. The other thing you should know as this is not tool reservation is book your space, book the space first, then call dibs on the tool. That way you can ensure that when you come in to your reserved time in, let's say the workshop again, that table saw is available for you. And really, it's not much different than sharing at Ace's been at any time. It's about talking to each other. I mean, people have been sharing the workshop forever and all the tools forever. And it's just like, hey, I'm using that. Okay, when are you going to be done? I'm going to be done here. Okay, awesome. And then you work it out. And we really have a lot of faith in people's competency to do that. There are two parts of the system. One is online booking, as well as some online tools. The other is some hardware and software that's on site called Point of Occupancy Tracking, or POOT stations. Yes, everybody gets that 12-year-old grin. It's cool. We're 12 too. Now, online booking is for you when you want to guarantee that the space is going to be available before you come in. If you need 2 or more hours of use, it allows you to book as much time as you need and make sure that there's room for you. It also has a nice feature for when you forget to check out later on. So one of the things that it does require is that you log into your ACE account online and that you have an active membership. Otherwise, you won't be able to access the system. Now, the point of occupancy tracking are literally little tablets and RFID readers in front of every room. And I'll show you a picture of what those look like. And they're inside the doors. They're not out in the hallway. They're inside the doors. And it allows you to check in and check out of each physical space. It lets you know how many people are in a space before you enter. So you have an opportunity for informed consent before you share space with other people. And it also tells you how many people can be in the room at any given time. It also allows for you to be able to float to other spaces without, say, giving up your primary reservation. All spaces have at least one spot reserved for local check-in only. It's a spot that cannot be reserved online, so that we can still have some semblance of normal function. Sometimes you just got to dip into the other room and get the thing. How to book rooms. Let's just do a demo. We're going to pop online here. This is Ace. This is the Ace website. You will notice that this is a menu, and there's no menu for booking. You're like, I can't get it. Turns out I'm not logged in. So my first step is I need to log in. So I'm going to log in here. And wow, never. I have a whole awesome new menu that wasn't there before. The first thing on that menu is booking. There's some amazing things underneath. Check them out. As a member, they're there for you. But the first tool is booking. So I'm popping over here to booking. And this is personalized. This is a personalized page here. What it shows you is not what it shows the next person, because this is relevant to how you're interacting with the space. You have an opportunity to choose a date for which you're going to book things for. It'll show you any existing bookings that you may have, which are awesome. And if you forgot to check out of a space, there'd be a big old button over here that would allow you to check out without actually having to come back. So we expect that people are going to forget. So the first thing that you need to do is select a date. So I'm going to come here later in the month. I'm choosing the 22nd. You've got to give it a second to load it. And this is how you know that you're booking for September 22nd. Make sure that this date here listed under the calendar is the date you want to book for. The next thing you need to do is select a room.
Let's do workshop.
Awesome, workshop. Now the options have changed to the 2 spots that are available for online booking. Now, I've been, getting later and later here with COVID, so we're not going to start this day here till about 10 a.m. I'm going to go 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, and I think my project's going to go wrong. I'm going to go all the way to the end of the 3 p.m. hour. That means I have from 10 a.m. start to 4 p.m. or 3:59 that I want to choose, and then I need to click book now. And by the way, if somebody else is trying to book the same time as you, whoever hits that book now first wins, and you'll get an error. But now I have a booking. Awesome. It shows me my booking right here. Tells me what I have going. I can cancel it if I need to. But if I go back to that date, it'll notice it grayed out the other spot for me, because you can only be one person in space and time. And the system knows that. So that option is there. Now, if I was a different user, it would make those spots available, but it would also show that, hey, you're going to be hanging out with Crafty. And that's one of the reasons why this page can only be seen by active members. So we're only sharing information with other active members. And what it does is I've opted to show my Slack handle. Now, Your Slack handle is something you control in your profile, and there's information on the wiki on how you can do that. A Slack handle is required. So awesome, we've made a booking. We're all good. I'm going to hit cancel because this is on the production site, and I don't want to forget that and hang up that time and space in the 22nd, because that's no good. Little reminder, if you want more than 2 hours, because when you go for a local booking for one of the local spots that you can't see online, it will only let you do a max of 2 hours, assuming that it's even available. So if you want more, you're going to have to do it online. And if you forgot to check out, you can go online and check out, and it makes it a little bit easier. The things you do on the POOT stations are local check-in and short visits. Now let's look at what that is. This is a POOT station. This is what it looks like. There's a little tablet on the wall, got a little reader on there. One of these days we'll laser cut some beautiful enclosures, but you know what? We decided we wanted to be open. So this is what's going on. Some basic rules to consider are that you can only check fob in for yourself at this time. There are no guest privileges. If you're fobbing in and out for other people, that's a big no-no. We're going to yellow card town. You can't check in more than 5 minutes before your reservation, or if the person before you overstayed their welcome and the room's already at max capacity. Your reservation expires if you don't check in the first 15 minutes. Poof, all that time becomes available to somebody else. You must check out to make the spot available for another user. You will get a lot of annoying notifications if you have not checked out once your reserved time is expired. It'll start with emails, it'll go to Slacks, it'll keep going, and you might have people knocking on the door. So remember to check in and check out. You can only check into one room for one spot at a time. Like I said, it knows time and space. It knows you can't be 2 people in metal at once or 2 people in workshop at once. You can only be 1 person in a room at a time. Now, something that I'm going to be really emphasize a lot, if the room is at max capacity, don't go in. We don't care if it's a system glitch. We don't care if somebody forgot and got in your way or took your reservation. It's not about who followed the rules or how hard we can police people. It's about public safety and health. Let's do a little simulation of what a check-in, check-out scenarios look like. This is the home screen, and this is what you see when you check in. It's going to tell you the date and time in the upper left-hand corner. It's going to tell you what room you're dealing with. Some of our rooms are side by side. It's going to give you a prompt letting you know, hey, do something. Give us that fob. Don't touch anything, just wave the fob. It's going to tell you the current occupancy on the room, so you know what you're walking into, and it's going to tell you the max that room can take. Now, if you've booked a reservation and the space is not at max occupancy, you're going to get this message when you fob in. It's going to welcome you and remind you about the time of your reservation. It's also going to increase the count of humans in the room. If you've booked a reservation and you come in too early, significantly too early, you're going to get a couple of options. Let's say for some reason, something you planned before you visited Ace just doesn't take that long, and you're like, oh, I can go Ace now, but you've got a reservation on file. It has this nice button where it says, click here to get a drop-in spot. And so you're able to check that even if you've got a reservation and be like, ooh, let's jump on that. Now, whether or not you didn't have a reservation or you hit that button that I just described, these are the options you're going to get for local check-in. You have to tell the system, how long do I want to locally occupy this space? And you can occupy for up to 2 hours and go online if you need a larger block of time. Now, right now, the space books in whole hour increments on the line for online booking, but we'll talk more about that. And keep in mind, this is custom software. So we're iterating on this all the time, and your suggestions are valuable. Now, let's say you try to do a local check-in and somebody else got it before you. It's going to tell you that if there's no local spot available, even though you're trying to check in locally, it's going to tell you, instead of those 4 buttons that you saw, it's going to give you this message. And it's going to tell you the next available reservation for that room, which might be immediately, or it's going to tell you when that local drop-in spot is next up. Now, let's say you show up and it's past the 15-minute window on your reservation. You're going to get this message. And it's going to be like, yo, you flaked. In fact, we might change this message to, yo, you flaked. and it's gonna time out. There's a little timer that ticks away on all of these screens that tells you how long you have to wait before you try another thing. And then once it times out, you can do any of the options we've already discussed, which is local check-in and not local. But your time got made available for other folks, because we're not going to hang a whole spot in a room just because, I mean, if somebody doesn't show, like, why would we do that? Now, let's say you had a reservation and you tried to check in and the space was full. That's what I was talking about. This is where you just don't walk in. It's going to tell you that that's the problem. Now, you have some options. You can knock on the door and give it a respectful, hey, what's going on? You can also go to the booking page, and I'm going to go to today. And I'm going to go to the workshop, be like, who's in there? And ooh, look, I get to know who's in there. And I can Slack those people and go, are you still there? Did you forget to check out? What are you doing? You're empowered to make all those moves first. But look, all the data is right here for you. Now, if push comes to shove, you can contact @officers on Slack. If, and it's a big if, one of us is sitting by a machine, ready to be at AMT's beck and call, we can manually go into the camera feed, verify the physical occupancy count, and manually change it. But that's a big if. We operate on stipends. We are not full-time employees, and by no means do we provide 24-hour service. We will always strive to do our best. We all do this because we love it and we love the community, but set your expectations reasonably. If you are checked in, the next time you present your fob, it's going to check you out. That's the action right there. That's going to be the most simple action you do. It's going to check you in, check you out, and it's going to tell you, I've checked you out, Bob. I've checked you out, Chris. It's going to say who's been checked out. And if there's a relevant message that we've programmed, we might say that too. Like, hey, you have a perfect check-in, check-out record. You're always on time. Love ya. Like, who knows? But we believe in celebrating people who are mindful and take care of the community. Now, let's say for some unfathomable reason, you tailgated in the door with somebody else, or the door was open for airflow and you walked in and you tried to check in, but you weren't COVID certified, you're going to get a big, hairy message like this. And we mean it. We mean it. We check the camera feed every day. Leave immediately. Get out of the building. Go get certified. No exceptions. No, I just needed to grab a thing. No. That also is a yellow card. So please don't do that. Now, let's say something else goes wrong. You know, this is custom software. It is software. We are dependent on the internet, signals from space and systems. And if anything else goes wrong, whether it's a problem with your account or that is, you know, like your credit card expired or it's something else, you're going to get this big oh no. This is like major error. Get it fixed. Don't come in. But this is, you're not certified and you can probably walk outside and go certify on your phone. This is, no, you need help. It's nothing's going on until a human being does thing. And that's how that is. This is a system that we've developed. And this is just a simulation here that you've seen today. The actual user interface is super, super similar, but has nicer features. Like it has like little animations that tell you when something is loading and little timers that time down, waiting for you to be able to read the whole message before the screen refreshes, and conveniences like that. And we're always iterating it. We're always making it better at this point. We probably have 2 more major versions before we're done with the lion's share and go into maintenance mode. And we're human beings. I'm sure we will find a way to break it or make it do unpredictable things. But we're makers, we're hackers. Let's learn from it, do it better. Now, a little bit about going from room to room. You can go from room to room. You aren't locked in only on your reservation. You can, I made a little drawing here. This is a little bit better. Like, here's a list. Here it is in text, but I'm going to use this drawing that I just made tonight. Now, you can go to room from room without losing your primary reservation. And it starts with, it's a 6-step little maneuver. And what you do is you go to your primary space where you've made your booking and you check in. Awesome. And now I'm in the wood shop and I'm woodworking and I need to cut this metal rod. That means, oh, I need to go to the metal room. Like, that's the way that is. Do not check out of the workshop. Go to the metal shop, do a local check-in, do what you got to do, then check out of the metal shop and go back to the workshop and keep rocking your reservation. Because if you check out to your primary space, you've now given up that spot. No more 6 hours of woodworking for you. But we need to know where you've been. And where you've been needs to match the camera feed. And this is how you can do it. So now let's talk a little bit about what you're doing once you're in the spaces. We've gotten to like what you do before the spaces, how to keep your body safe and wear a mask. We've talked about what the culture is. But now you're in there doing the thing. Let's talk about keeping clean and safe. Cleaning methods. Humans need to be cleaned and tools and work surfaces need to be cleaned. Please use approved sanitizers. There is tons in each room. There's refills in 113. You can wash your hands in the sink at 206 and in the bathrooms. We highly recommend that you use the bathrooms at the front of the building by the Coke machines and not the ones in the main hallway, because the ones at the front of the building have open windows and are less likely to be funky, just from a germ perspective. And then tools and work surfaces. Please use approved provided sanitizers for these things. There are certain sanitizers, such as bleach-based cleaners or even plain soap, that can add buildup or rust tools down and can harm our fine goods. I watched a whole set of sewing tools get ruined in the course of PPE making. They were rusty junk by the end because they've been bleach dipped for all intents and purposes. But we've got plenty of spray cleaner everywhere. Every room has at least one or more sanitization stations. Now, a little bit to know about specialty cleaners. There are certain machines at Ace that need to stay greasy, like the mill or the table, the wood surfaces and tables on saws. Also, monitors. Do not use basic cleaners on monitors. We have provided electronics cleaners for monitors. And while you can clean the greasy things with the sanitizer we've provided, make sure that you hit them with the wax or whatever grease product is necessary afterward. One of the safe cleaners that's currently widely available is a 409 or 409 clone, which does have a degreasing product in it. So be mindful about how you're treating those tools. Some things need to be greasy, but greasy and clean. Now, when to sanitize yourself. Now that you know how, here's when. When you walk in the room, when you touch your face, and you will touch your face. Doesn't matter how good you think you are, you're going to adjust that mask, you're going to rub that eye, you're going to take on and off your sunglasses, you're going to touch your face. Just sanitize. That's all it is. And then when somebody else touches your tools with hands of unknown cleanliness, assume that they've transferred, give it a little zhuzh, and then before you exit the space. You don't want to take germs out to light switches and handrails any more than you want to bring them in. When to sanitize tools and workstations. Shockingly, it's the same thing. Before you use it, assume that it's dirty. When you touch your face, because you're gonna, when somebody else touches your stuff, and after you've used it. Now, after this training, I have a cute little web post to show you. We're experimenting with tool caddies where you can pull a bucket off the wall, and as you use tools, just throw all the tools in the bucket so you know exactly what you have to clean before you put it back. And each tool caddy has a little hand sanitizer and a little spray thing. Now let's talk about proximity to safety, unless you have questions about how and when to clean. Okay, so AMT is inside space. AMT has no windows. We often have exhaust vents, And we do believe in moving air. We really do. But it is inside space. Droplets don't disperse the same inside in enclosed spaces, the same way they disperse like outside at the park or the garden or the wherever. So proximity for safety is a must. Please stay 6 feet apart, even if you're wearing masks. This is what it is. It doesn't mean that you can't pass people in the hallway and maybe come a little bit closer if you must, but make sure that you're being polite about it. A lot of us are like, on your left, coming on by. That way, if that person would like to stay further apart from you, they can. So give folks an option. And certainly if you're working at desks, apart. The other thing to know is that soon we're going to have face shields available for a very reasonable cost. These are medical alike face shields. They are not the kind of face shield that you wear to use a lathe. They will not stop a bolt flying across the room. They are face shields that can be worn with masks, but not in place of masks. And they have proven to add a little bit more protection to individuals. The other thing to remember is 6 feet is so much further than you think. The average adult, and we're going to go, the person of my height, which is short, I'm 5 feet and maybe an inch tall, to somebody who's 5'5". The average adult, from the center of their head to the tip of their fingers, if you hold your hand all the way out, is approximately 3 feet. So if you hold your hand out right now, look at that and go 3 feet beyond that. And I guarantee you it's further than how close you were at the last grocery line. 6 feet is much further than you think. And we have like 1,000 measuring tools. When in doubt, get a ruler out, measure that. Make sure that you're 6 feet apart. We've done our best to place the furniture and workstations 6 feet apart or more, but humans move stuff. Humans put chairs where they don't belong. Humans may do a pop-up workstation in some spaces. When in doubt, measure. And like I said, you can always just grab a 3-foot stick and hold it out. And the last part of certification is that you need to take a test. It can be found at this particular link, but it's a publicly available test. You don't even have to be logged in. If you go to the AMT website, on our menu, you'll see an item called Classes and Events. There's a sub-item on that menu called COVID-19 Safety Program. If you click on that page, you will see the COVID-19 Safety Knowledge Check. Fill out this form, click Start, and away you go. You can take this test as many times as is necessary for you to pass. Last but not least, like I said, we're always learning, and we're very much open to your feedback. Please send feedback to officers at acemakerspace.org if something occurs to you down the line. General questions, we ask that you bring those, if at all humanly possible, to the general Slack channel so that everybody can be part of the open, engaged conversation and learning from each other's curiosities and answers. And thank you for coming today.